This is brought to you by the George Jackson Grassroots Collective, a progressive organization in the new African independence movement that cultivates revolutionary transfer culture, liberating the minds through awareness and education, protecting and training our people while fostering unity as stated in the Code of Umoja. Welcome to the George Jackson Grassroots Collective Dialogue Session.
Today we have a very special guest. I would like to say peace and blessings to all of the people tuning in today to the George Jackson Grassroots Collective. First question I want to shoot towards you, Baba, is who are you? Where are you from? What was your upbringing like? And could you give us a brief summary of the organizations, the movements, and the collectives that you're a part of currently?
I say, first, giving honor to the Creator and honor to the ancestors, just for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate the opportunity to dialogue with such intelligent and powerful brothers. And peace to the George Jackson Collective as well. My name is Baba Amin Ojuwoke. I am the co-founder, along with my beautiful wife and Koyo Ojuwoke, of the Uhuru Academy. We are an independent African-centered institution of learning, and we deal with K through 12 education. We deal with adult education. We deal with life coaching. We deal with teaching our story. We deal with organizing events around education, events around Black unity and community. And Uhuru Academy has been around since 2010, but I've been engaged in community organizing since around 1992. So I'm over 30 years in the game right now. I was born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. Upbringing was full of love. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in what people might call the hood, but my house was full of love. It was full of hugs. It was full of laughter. You know what I'm saying? I learned how to love Black people at home, with everything that was going on around us. Might have been some craziness going on outside, but that's just what it was. I grew up in a part of town in Fort Worth called Stop Six. It's East Fort Worth, and I love my neighborhood. Like I said, I enjoyed my childhood. By the time I got to junior high school, crack cocaine and hit the community real hard, and witnessed that shift. After I graduated high school, maybe a year later, gang banging started being a thing where I was from. Around 1989, 1990, we started seeing that shift. And so I watched the community transform. I often tell my students that one thing that's different about me than them is that I remember a Black community where crack cocaine didn't exist. And I witnessed that whole transformation. Went to college at Wiley College in Marshall, Texas. I went there on a full academic scholarship. But that's also where I discovered African consciousness. And it was through a course taught by Dr. A.J. Stovall in Black Studies, where I was first exposed to some truth about who we are. That's when I learned that we didn't come from slaves. That's where I learned that Africans were the fathers and mothers of civilization. That's when I first learned that. I learned about Malcolm X my first year in college. Didn't know who he was prior to that. Marcus Mosiah Garvey. You know what I'm saying? And so a transformation took place in me my first year in college. But at the same time, I had friends at home that were dying in the streets. And some were banging, some were slanging, a few was doing both, and with this newfound consciousness coupled with maybe some survivor's remorse, I chose to leave college. I chose to leave Wiley College, and I went back home to Fort Worth, and I transferred to a junior college for a little while, but I found a new school. And my new school was the hood. My new school was negotiating peace treaties between rival gangs. My new school was setting up rites of passage programs and the so-called projects of where I was 18, 19 years old and had some brothers to take me under their wing, namely Brother Will X Muhammad of the Nation of Islam and Brother Ricky Clark to take me under their wing and give me opportunities to teach. And that's where I discovered my love of teaching. And that's where I discovered that my role was going to be in education in African-centered education. At 18, 19 years old, we began starting rites of passage programs all throughout the hoods in Fort Worth. And it's a trip because I'm graduating the children of the children that were in my rites of passage program in the 90s. I'm graduating their children today. And so in the ways it kind of it comes full circle. I've worked in youth serving programs in Fort Worth, from the Tarrant County Advocate Program to juvenile services, the Boys and Girls Club Coming Up Gang Intervention Program. You name it, I did it when it came to youth engagement. But we got tired of putting band-aids on bullet wounds. A lot of those programs are about getting grants. They're about getting a sign-in sheet and a sign-out sheet, but they're not about going that extra mile to get the results and the outcomes that benefit the people that you're working with. They're poverty pimping programs. And I got tired of being a part of that. And so I began starting my own programs in the neighborhood. I'm also a hip hop artist. Shout out to my boy L.O. the G. The first rap group I was ever in called East Side. You know what I'm saying? And one of the first youth programs I started myself was called Sound Incorporated, where we put a music studio in the middle of the hood, and it was free. You can come as long as you spitting something real, you can come spit that sound. And you had to you had to study African history. We taught them the music business, the whole 9 yards, you know what I'm saying? And just on a grassroots level. And just over the years of doing that, man, my name became synonymous with youth engagement in Fort Worth. It became synonymous with grassroots organizing where I was from. And fast forward to 2010, my beautiful wife and I decided to start the Uhuru Academy, Fort Worth's first private African center school. And from there we began organizing with the RBG movement, of which I became involved. We started our own faction of the RBG movement called RBG Nation. I was a part of Lone Star RBG and had the honor of being considered the national spokesman for RBG Nation. Through the RBG movement, we established RBG Family Weekend, which became kind of like the blueprint for doing RBG events, throughout the country. Many events were spawned from that in several cities over this time period. Through the RBG movement, we established the Temple of New African Unity, where we were establishing a safe spiritual space in the community for Black people to come to, regardless of what they believed in. Long as when they closed their eyes and prayed, what they prayed to looked like us, you can come to Temple. And through Temple and through RBG Family Weekend, we began creating relationships in our community. To this day, the community in Fort Worth has been transformed politically from one that was, hardcore sleep to one that got a little pushback in it, you know what I'm saying, right now. And so we just finished our 14th year. Full school year at the Uhuru Academy. I'm proud of that, and that's why I'm here, man. I probably jumped over a lot of stuff, but that's who I am in a nutshell, y'all. I'm your brother, and I'm just out here trying to uplift the community just like you.
Yes, sir. That's beautiful, and that's a lot to build on. Honestly, I got so many questions now. I want to start with, could you break down Uhuru? What does that mean?
Right.
The 4 symbols that we see in the background.
Right.
And then what does the curriculum of the academy entails?
Okay, cool. Well, Uhuru is Swahili for freedom, right? It's Swahili for freedom. And the 4 pillars that we stand on is spirituality, knowledge, freedom, and transformation. Right. And when we say spirituality, we're not talking about a religion per se. We're talking about our belief that there's never been a great African civilization that was not spiritual at its roots. Also, when we talk about spirituality, we're talking about science. We're talking about science, mathematics. We're talking about STEM. All spiritual principles are based on scientific principles. And so the spirituality, and of course, you see the Gia and Yame in the background as our symbol of spirituality. Then there's knowledge, right? We feel like, if you don't know what was, then you don't know what is. And if you don't know what is, you're not prepared for what's to come. So wise people study our story. And so we have the Sankofa symbol there as well as one of our 4 pillars. And then you see freedom, and we have the Bibi Fahodie, the Fahodie symbol right there, symbolizing freedom. At the Uhuru Academy, we teach that freedom is transformation. Freedom is responsibility. You know what I'm saying? And so freedom ain't free. right? And so when we talk to our children about freedom, we talk to them about how do you build freedom, or how do you build uhuru. You know what I'm saying? That uhuru is something that must be developed. It's something that must be cultivated. Not something that it doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want to do. That's not what freedom is, right? Freedom is taking responsibility for self, how you eat, how you live, where you live. You know what I'm saying? That's freedom is an action word, right? And so that's what that one is, right? And then transformation, right? Transformation is all about, we're not trying to change our people. We're not trying to change our children. We want to transform our children. A transformation is like that moth or that caterpillar that turns into the butterfly. You know what I'm saying? He's transforming. So education is here to pull out what's already inside of you, not to just pour information inside of you. And when you pull out what's already there, that's when you undergo a transformation. So those are the four pillars of the Uhuru Academy. We are an African-centered school. We're a vision development-based school as well. You know, so not only do we teach everything from an African perspective, but we also, from the time children enter our system, we're talking to them about, why are you here? What's your purpose? You know, what's your vision? What are you visualizing yourself becoming as you grow? And then how are you going to serve your people and serve the community once you get there? Right? We don't just teach our children to dream at the Uhuru Academy. We train our children to plan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With the Uhuru Academy being private,
Mhm.
what's the process of enrolling students into your school?
Well, to enroll in Uhuru Academy, you simply go to uhuruacademy.com, our website, and then you find the program that best fits your needs. Now, we are a tuition-based program, but our tuition is flexible. You know, we also have part-time options, that sort of thing. We fundraise so we can provide scholarships. We do everything we can to make sure that money doesn't prevent enrollment, but at the same time, we do everything we can to make sure we have the resources so we can afford the enrollment, right? Because somebody always pays. Right. So, like, when you have a society where we say education is free, it really isn't. We're taxing ourselves and using a portion of that money to compensate for the education. Right. And so, until we build our community, our infrastructure, where we're circulating our resources, right, then we use the fiat, you know, to get people enrolled, and to take care of our teachers and that sort of thing. But we also barter as well. So we have parents who are homeschooling parents. For example, one of our teachers, Mama Alexis, who's a wonderful teacher, she has 3 daughters in our school, and instead of tuition, she actually teaches our lower elementary. You know, and so we barter as well. You know, we have people, for example, Dr. Oya Mayat of Morgan State University, Conscious Ingenuity, Ed Anime Productions. Her son Jalen is in our school, and that's actually a situation where we barter as well. You know, and so we come up with creative ways to make it happen. But the first thing someone has to do is go to uhuruacademy.com.
Yes, sir. That is very beautiful. And by if you ever get a chance during this conversation, would it be possible for you to drop that link as well in the chat,
Right in the chat,
just
right?
so anybody can access that? I also want to ask, could you expand on like some of the challenges that
Mhm.
you had experienced throughout your time?
Wow. I go back to the early 90s, and um, it's always been a challenge. Of course, the challenges began internally, and that's where most of your strongest challenges are. And so the challenges began internally when my spirit was pulling me to go work with these children in Butler housing and to go to these Malcolm X grassroots movement meetings and all that. When my spirit was pulling me to do that, and my brain was saying, go get a job. My brain was saying, finish your degree. My brain was saying, no, don't be a part of that. But I've never gang banged. I'm not in a gang. I never sold drugs. Why am I concerned with what's going on inside this community? I had every tool that you need to get out. I'm the integration generation. So my first challenge biggest challenge was overcoming the programming that said, you got to keep in mind, when I was in school, my teacher used to pull me to the side and say, you are so smart, you can get out. You are so smart, man. You're gonna get out, you're gonna make it. And they meant well. And so it's to the point when I'm walking through the hood, people look at me like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Right. And so the first challenge was overcoming that programming. But through, and especially in my early years, the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad helped ground me. It was embracing Islam early on that really helped ground me and give me perspective and help teach me that love of my people and understand that I could trust the creator on this mission. That it might not pay money. I understood that early on, it wasn't going to pay a lot of money. But if I trusted in the creator, I would always have everything that I needed. And so that first challenge is always internal. From there, you of course, black people gonna hurt your feelings, man. They gonna, you're gonna be disappointed in the community. You can't get into this thing thinking all of a sudden everybody finna be cool. It don't work like that. And I ain't just talking about black people that I'm working with in the community. I'm talking about black people that you're organizing with, and so you come in with those challenges because just because we realize we should organize does not mean we have the temperament to do it. Just because we realize that black is beautiful doesn't mean that we've internalized and we really see black divinity. So dealing with that latent anger that we have for each other that can be triggered in one conversation, right? That's also been a great challenge, just maintaining relationships with my own people, particularly other people who are organizing it. Sometimes it's their fault, sometimes it's my fault. You understand what I'm saying? So that's definitely a challenge. Raising a family. My wife and I, we have 8 children. You know what I'm saying? And so raising a family, paying the bills, and making sure everybody's taken care of during this process. The creator has done well. My children ain't missed no meals. They've lived they know love. They've lived a great life. We've always had a roof over our heads. But it's a challenge. You got to be creative. I had to diversify my skills, so you look up now. I'm a sound engineer. I professionally, I've done video editing professionally. Anything I needed to learn that could help bring some money to the table, I did it. I've taken jobs, but every job I took was just an investment opportunity to invest in my business. As soon as I get my investment, I'm off the job, I'm back onto the business. So being a serial entrepreneur is also a challenge, because it's a challenge, especially when your market is black people and they've been programmed to avoid black owned businesses. So you have to deal with that as well. As far as the Uhuru Academy is concerned and education, man, you give me 15 minutes of your time, your baby gonna be enrolled in my school. That's just how I carry myself. You know what I'm saying? But it's still a challenge because there's no government funding for what we do, and we don't want government funding for that. And then you deal with the fear that black people have of doing something independent. People always asking me, your high school diploma, is it accredited by the state? The state don't even accredit high school diplomas. So you got to explain to them that this is a power that we have as a people to educate our own children. We don't have to ask anybody's permission. You looking at them Trump white folks and them right-wing white folks yanking their people out of school and doing it, you mad because they prejudice. You just focus on that they prejudice against you, but you're not focusing on the power that they exercising is the same power you can exercise. Right. And so that challenge to get us to buck massa in any way is always a challenge. We want that security blanket of white approval. And if we don't have it, a lot of us are very uncomfortable. And so that's a challenge as well, because a lot of times when you're doing something for black people, people take it as if you're doing something against somebody else. You know what I'm saying? But what we do is only going to hurt those that exploit us, and they should be hurt if their goal is to exploit us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. One thing that stood out throughout this conversation so far is when you go into spirituality, and of course those who practice Pan-Africanism, New African nationalism, Black
Right.
nationalism, we separate our religious and our spiritual
Mhm.
point of views, because at the end of the day, it's about, being Black. It's about being African, and a
Right.
lot of people forget that. And so
Right.
in this day and age, I do understand those challenges, because it hurts my feelings when dealing with, our people who don't want to be open to the truth because they're so religiously brainwashed,
Mhm.
and they have found themselves in cults to where they're not even open to just the truth about who they are as a people and their culture. And
Mhm.
you know, one thing that I learned from my brothers and sisters from the Nation of Islam, accept your own and be yourself. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You could find that in the Final Cause newspaper.
Mhm.
And our people have a really big problem with just doing that. It's always about everybody else, and there's never no space for us to exclusively talk about our own people, our issues, our problems, and how we can come together and politic about solutions. How can we come together and talk about building and actually implement these things that we talk about?
Mhm.
Because everybody get into the theoretical side of things, but nobody actually gets into the practicality of any of it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's a hard reality dealing with brothers and sisters who have found themselves now willing to accept their own and be themselves because of what they chose to believe. And
Mhm.
it's sad because when you look at different races of people, you know, Asians, the Koreans may not like the Chinese may not like the Japanese, the Vietnamese, etc. But at the end of the day, they can put aside their minor differences and come together on the basis of race.
Well, I will say this. I'll say this to that though, right? We actually learn fratricide from other races. We actually learn to kill each other from other races. Asians be tearing each other up. You know, I used to mediate gangs, and I remember I had an opportunity to mediate between young Asian gangs in Fort Worth, and some of the things they do to each other, we can't even fathom. You know, they enslave each other. You know what I'm saying? When you look at Europeans, no race kills each other, and is more violent and horrible towards one another than Europeans. Nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like that, and nothing compares. I've been around them too, you know, and they steal each other's money. They seek to destroy each other each and every day. You know what I'm saying? I think what we think we see as unity amongst them is more of an ability to exploit us as a unit. Right? Like they can hate each other at the same time, but still the Asians know their business opportunities in our community. But even then they have to negotiate as to who's gonna get what, who's gonna get the nail shops, who's gonna get the donut shops, who's gonna so even they have their own chambers of commerce and things like that where they have to negotiate and divide it up. They divide up the hood the same way the Berlin Conference divided up Africa. Somebody's going to get the hotels, somebody's going to get the corner stores, somebody's going to get to buy the rent, they're going to go after the rental properties and things like that, the check cashing places. So they divide the hood up the same way the Europeans divided up Africa for colonialism, right? But we shouldn't confuse that as for some type of unity that they have that we don't have, right? And so because they struggle to stay together, to be together and have that kind of togetherness too. They go to war all the time. But I'm just saying that to say our issue, you know, what I've observed over the years, right? I've never met a Black person who didn't want to know about self. But the key is being willing to meet them where they are, not where I am, right? And so when I go and I talk to a pastor, and let's say I'm looking for a place to do my rites of passage program, and I see a church on the block, and I want to go talk to this pastor, I know I can't go to the pastor and say, Hotep, Black Power. I'm scaring them off, right? But I can go and say, peace. How you doing today? And meet him where he is. Yo, I'm doing a youth program. I might not say rites of passage. I may say I'm doing a youth program. I'm speaking his language. I'm doing a youth program. And in that program, I'm teaching our children the history that we didn't get in school. So now what I'm doing, I'm connecting him to something that he didn't get. And so now it's going to tap and he's like, oh yeah, you know what? Because they sure didn't teach us that stuff in school. Yeah, you know, so we're just looking for a space to do it. You see how that approach came? Now, I'm not trying
Absolutely.
to radicalize him and get him to join the Republic of New Africa, nothing like that. I just need that room. I just need him to be radical enough to give me that space, right? And then I'm going to make him feel Black enough to look in the mirror and be proud that he's doing something for his people. And it might be other 9 things he's doing might not be for the people, but that one thing he's doing for the people might spark him. And I've literally watched Christian preachers take white Jesuses down and put black ones up and flip their whole script only because we just got them engaged in something simple as a Black history class in their church. And what those of us who are aware and working to build something have to be aware of, right, is that people have to be built up. People have to be poured into. That Kwame Ture says we can't make anybody conscious. You don't make anybody African. Africa was born in you. What we're trying to do is draw it out of you, right? Recognize it and draw it out of you. So you see the brother with the gold teeth, you don't say, man, he ghetto. You say, oh man, you remind me of the kings of Benin in West Africa, man. They was draped in gold. You must have West African ancestry. You know, the sister with the colorful hair, you know, that's a sign of beauty in many cultures in Africa, that the colorful and creativity in your hair, sister. But the society is calling her ghetto. So we begin to perpetuate those things. Those of us who are aware, we have to find the beauty in it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Chairman.
I have a quick question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Could you please explain to the people what is a rites of passage?
So a rites of passage is a path, right? A rites of passage is any organized path to get from one stage of development to another, right? And it's intentional, right? And so, for example, you got brothers and sisters out there who join fraternities and sororities, right? And they have to learn X amount of information during the pledge time. And then when they master the information and the secrets, so to speak, then they cross over. That's a rites of passage, right? Even when you get on a job and you have to go through training, you know, your first 6 weeks of training, and then they give you your certificate and you ready to get full-time hours. That's your rites of passage. Even in the hood growing up, you know what I'm saying? And you on the block and you trying to navigate your neighborhood and know where to go, where not to go, who to talk to, who not to talk to. You know what I'm saying? That's your rites of passage. And the rites of passage, that whole concept is an African science that dates back really to the dawn of humanity, because humanity would not have survived without a rite of passage. You know what I'm saying? You got to learn what to eat. You got to learn where to go. You got to learn how to shelter yourself. Those are process, and you can't put one thing in front of the other. You have to learn it in a certain order so you can make sure you carry the maturity from handling this thing to the next thing. Because your responsibility is going to increase, so your maturity needs to increase at the same time. So that's what a rites of passage is. I hope that was a helpful answer.
Yes, sir. That's a beautiful answer. Minister of Information.
Hello. Free to land. So,
By any means necessary.
I'm blessings, brother. So I do have a question that's been technically on my mind.
Mhm.
And that question is, within all this stuff that you have witnessed from then, actually, there's 2 questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
The first one is, from the time you was coming up all the way till now,
Mhm.
could you able to say that there has been any changes now that you've been doing what you've been doing for some time now, from then all the way till now?
As far as like overall changes in our community and that sort of thing. For the last 30 years, it feels as if we're engaged in a very serious game of chess with the United States of America. You have moves and you have counter moves. The crack epidemic was a counter move to counter the threat of economic empowerment that Black people began to achieve as a result of the Black Power movement of the late 60s going into the 70s. There was a whole move. Anthony Browder in his The Browder File has a chapter called The Politics of Hair. And it's like, if you look at any point in Black people history and you look at our hair, you can kind of see where our head was at, right? So 70s, you saw that afro, and it was Black is beautiful and that sort of thing. So the counter move was American society trying to co-opt that and trying to make it something more silly, right? And then bringing our entertainers and all that into this drug world. Okay. And next thing you know, in the 80s, crack cocaine hit the streets, and we looking at shows like Different Strokes and the Jefferson that highlight Black people getting out of the ghetto and going to live with benevolent rich white folks. Next thing you know, we all wearing Jerry curls. The natural is gone, right? And now you're looking at us politically being weakened, and that's what that hit. But then hip hop hit. And when hip hop culture came, hip hop culture was kind of like a counter move to the crack epidemic, because young people began to stand up and we started putting our stories on the beat, you know what I'm saying? And not just the conscious rappers like KRS-One and Rakim, you know what I'm saying, God Allah, but even with NWA and the gangsters and Ghetto Boys, where I'm from, you know what I'm saying? Started putting what we were seeing and experiencing in our communities in the music, but also blending some powerful messages in there at the same time. And then you started seeing in the late 80s and early 90s, we started wearing Africa medallions and started locking our hair a little bit and that sort of thing, right? And so we saw a shift. I saw a definite shift in the 90s where we were coming back. You saw the second rise of the Nation of Islam with Minister Farrakhan. You had Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben. They had places to go, bookstores to lecture in and that sort of thing. Man, I'm learning about Walter Rodney and all that. And I want to pay homage to one of my JGNAs who just transitioned recently, Baba Takuma Umoja, who had the only Black Power Pan-African bookstore in Fort Worth at that time, and shout out to the Black Bookworm, but the Roots and Culture was that place when you closed the door, wasn't no windows, it's like you wasn't even in Texas anymore. You know what I'm saying? And so we had spaces like that where we would have study groups and read newspapers about what's going on the continent. Boom, but at the same time, on the outside, we still fighting with gang banging. The crack epidemic is going crazy. So this has been a fight, like a fight, you know what I'm saying? And then the 2000s came, in the early 2000s was kind of like the return of the 80s. Bubble suits and shit, you know what I'm saying? And then Obama gets elected, so everybody think racism is over and all this kind of thing. So now we fight mass incarceration and the results of the crack epidemic, you know what I'm saying? So it's an ebb and flow. We're engaged in a battle. So yes, I've seen changes, man. We've always fought back. We've never not had a pocket of our community that wasn't fighting back. Now, are we still asleep? Yes. Right? It took us hundreds of years to get here. It's going to take generations and generations for us to get out. But the sleepiness manifests itself in different ways. The self-destruction manifests itself in different ways. I know people my age, we like to wax poetic and say, yeah, it was better in my day. I don't say that. It was different in my day. The tactics were different. So how you counteract those tactics are different, right? One of the things I advise young organizers today is organize based on what's happening now. Don't mimic what we did 25 years ago. Because some of those keep what's still relevant, but what's not relevant, replace and use your own creativity. And y'all need to tell us, how do we battle the mentality? This is the social media era. The world has never been like this before, ever.
Right.
We couldn't do this in 1995. There was no technology where we could be in 4 different states and cities and have this conversation and then put it out there possibly for anybody in the world to see. It didn't exist. So we have tools at our disposal today that we just didn't have back in the day, right? But we had tools back in the day that we're neglecting today because we do so much of the online. Right? We organize 500 people online to do something in a Facebook group, but can you get 500 people mobilized in your neighborhood? Those skills, I think, are being lost.
Free to land. So I just want to touch on a couple of things. For one, I would just like to say, honestly, what you said about, the changes of, hip hop culture, not even just hip hop culture, but basically, Black people in general, like the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Right. Even though I was born in 2000, I basically, I basically, sense that, just because, when it was Black Power, when it was, the Afro, at first it was about, identity, it was about who we are as the people, So I could definitely, see that in the 80s when crack and all that other stuff, in the early 90s when Queen Latifah, Unity, Tribe Called Quest, the Brand Nubian, all of that stuff. So
Right.
yeah, I know all about that, Um, but I will say, even though you had, people telling stories about, that sort of thing, it was, how people, received the message, you know, and the question was, and the question that is, did they use it for good or did they use it for bad? And I'm talking about as a people, you
Mhm.
know, because, everybody has a story, but within that story, what do we do as to be better, you know? But,
Right.
my last question to you is, um, throughout all, the stuff that you've been through, what is the number one thing that what is the number one thing that you learned out of
Mm.
all the things that you have gone through?
I think out of everything that we've gone through, number one lesson, that's a very good question, because I've learned so much, mostly about myself, which is the goal of education is to learn who you are and then how you connect to the universe around you. Uh, I've learned that there's power uh, in information. I've learned that there's power in unity. I've learned that there's power in being willing to go where others are not necessarily willing to go. There's power beyond what society defines as power. Um, I've learned that our people will always fight back, that we will be liberated one day. I've learned that we're not all the same. We're not a monolith, right? And so when we say we all need to come together, no, not really. We all need to come together with those of us that we are spiritually matched to come together with. Now we can all come, then we can come get understandings, right? With each other. There are some universal laws, some universal laws that have been passed down from generation to generation. Want for your neighbor what you want for yourself. You know what I'm saying? That sort of thing that we all need to understand. But we don't all have to organize the same way. We don't all have to attack capitalism the same way. You know what I'm saying? You hit his ankle, I'll get the kneecap. You slap him across the face. As long as you're working, let's do our thing. I always say the best debate to me is the debate where we show up and we say, we got 10 schools. How many y'all got? We got 10 schools and 100 acres. What y'all philosophy getting y'all? Well, my philosophy got us. We got this whole urban center over here where we doing this, and this. My philosophy got us over here. We have our weapons and our training, and we got land over here. Da, 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 da. To me, I love the ideological debates, but then put your practicality on the table. Put what your philosophy, and I see my picture froze. I don't know if y'all can still hear me, but put what your philosophy has manifested on the table. If we focus more on the work and less on whether or not we're right, then I think we'll get a lot further. But we can get caught up on Twitter screaming at each other, and it'll feel like organizing. It'll feel like that. So, let's put some more stuff on the ground.
Free to land, free to land. Okay,
I ain't even said
Chairman, you got something to say? Chairman?
Yes, sir. I'd like to go over just a little bit of things you said, sir.
yes, sir.
There's two things that really, caught my ear, and couple things. But freedom most definitely doesn't mean you can do whatever you want to do. Live a life like an anarchist with no morals and no principles. And followed up with that, when we say unity, I would say my opinion is not with everybody.
Mhm.
It's with the people, like what you just said, that has good morals, principles, like minds, and we're bound together by revolutionary principles and that sort of law. Um, as we move forward a little bit, you also mentioned the RBG movement.
Mhm.
Could you tell me and the people When did that start and what's all that about and does it still exist?
Okay, no problem. Well, RBG stands for red, black, and green, right? Right. And of course, we know that that was originally brought to us with the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey and Amy Ashwood and Amy Jacques Garvey, the UNIA, Universal Negro Improvement Association, in 1920, 1921, when the liberation flag and those colors were brought. And you got to start the definition with that because people have to understand that those colors have been represented worldwide by Black people since the 1920s for over 100 years. So it all starts there. And within the RBG movement, that is recognized. You understand what I'm saying? That's not, that's recognized. Now, when you bring it into a modern day lexicon, particularly through hip hop, because the RBG movement is more of a cultural movement. Which culture is politics when you get into it, right? But Ascari X, to my understanding, kind of introduced the RBG acronym into the hip hop lexicon. Then it was taken by Dead Prez through his influence. And Dead Prez began to articulate it as not just red, black, and green, but revolutionary but gangster. They had the classic RBG album, and what happened was you saw a mesh of street culture into Pan-Africanism and African-centered thought, right? It's like, what would you do if you took the thug culture and the street culture that's in our hood and wrapped an African-centered mentality around it, right? And so it became an attitude of, you know what, instead of going after my brother across town, we finna go after these people across town. You know what I'm saying? We need to buy this block. We don't need to be selling outside of the store. We need to own the store, right? And then we need to fix our music and infuse our music with this attitude of you know what I'm saying, we got to go for hours as a people. We got to raise our babies. And again, we don't all organized the same way. Where I'm from with Lone Star RBG, we focused on working with the youth, and that's because that's what I do. I already do hip hop, you know what I'm saying? So I've been an RBG artist for years. I just never called it that. You know what I'm saying? And so the movement began to gain popularity, around the music, but also around a yearning for family and around a momentum that was building in our neighborhood among non-college going people. A lot of times you used to have to find all the pro-Black people at the college, right? But now the hood was catching it because you got YouTube now. So you got people like Sarnetta and Sarah Sudenseti and others that are gaining popularity through social media. So now you're running into people in the hood like, yeah, man, I saw that Hidden Colors. Yeah, man, I be watching SETI, man, he be talking shit about the white folks and da 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 da. And so this momentum was swelling. Well, when we saw it in our community, I saw it as an opportunity to say, okay, let's infuse some things with it, right? Let's see what the spiritual stance is. And the reason why I brought the spiritual stance was because, you know what I'm saying, what's the point if you used to call them the B word, now you call her a queen, but you still dogging her out. If you know what I'm saying, we don't want to just dress up bad behavior. Am I making sense? Right. And so we want to introduce an element of discipline into that, organizing. There's some natural warriors out there on the streets. We want them to be organized. We want them to be prepared, right? We want to create safe spaces for our children. We want to keep our families together. You know what I'm saying? We want to put powerful music together that you wake up and listen to. You have an edge when you walk out the house to organize. You got an edge when you out there negotiating business and that sort of thing, right? And so that's what the RBG movement is all about. And I say is. People say, well, where is it? Because we haven't been the past few years. You really haven't seen the RBG movement flexing. probably about the last 5 or 6 years. You haven't seen the RBG movement throwing our events and that sort of thing over the last 5 or 6 years. But there are things going on behind the scenes. And behind the scenes, a lot of active RBGs are building their own business. A lot of active RBGs are working on self. A lot of active RBGs are in their communities doing programs inside their communities, you know what I'm saying? And not really jumping on social media with it like that, you know? And so that's what it is, right? And then our attitude is this, man, we don't own no revolution. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't gone. You got, or y'all, as far as we concerned, y'all RBGs, you know what I'm saying? And we on this podcast right now, you know? And so that's what it is, man. When you jump on the front line and you start doing this as a lifestyle and you fight, you put in a good 6, 7 straight years where this is your primary focus, sooner or later, somebody got to go focus on their family. Somebody has to go focus on their marriage. Somebody needs to go focus on their children, right? And so that happens. And when they do that, when somebody else says, I got to step back, then it's on somebody else to do what? Step forward, right? So the movement goes where Black people decide for it to go. But it's still here, and we still all in touch, and we got plans. But now the plans are a little bit more sophisticated. And not everything is for Instagram and Facebook.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
sir. Yes, sir. And I would like to say real quick. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I would like to say real quick, salute to the RBGs. And that was just a general question just for
Yeah.
people who don't know, but I'm
Right.
most definitely a supporter. And I kind of view myself as an RBG, like you said, as
Yeah.
well. Them same values, and I have my RGB flag everywhere I go.
Right.
I see the brothers in Atlanta as well. They're still doing their thing. I like what they do. And
Right.
salute to the whole RBG movement. We are one.
I say.
As we move to another formation, I would say
Mm-hmm.
we can't go without speaking about the PGRNA.
I say.
Um, could you give us just a little bit of detail of your involvement with them, and what's that all about?
All right. Well, the Provisional Government of Republic of New Africa is a formation born out of the original Republic of New Africa. My wife and I had the privilege of serving as co-ministers of education. We had the honor of co-organizing New African Nation Day, year 55. Which was great. The Republic of New Africa is a government. It's a provisional government designed by us for us, born in 1968, with its own constitution, the Code of Umoja, its own government, but it's a provisional government. Right, it's a provisional government. We say free to land, to remind ourselves that the basis of building any nation is getting some land under your feet that you can call your own. And that's basically what the PGRN is about. It's about political awareness. It's about study. It's about study groups. It's about self-defense. And again, it's about acquiring the land and organizing. It's an organization full of beautiful people, elders like General Rashid and others who are keepers of the history. It's a history that has been that people have attempted to bury. That must be preserved, which had a lot to do with my motivation to get involved. You have some great historians inside of that movement, though, man. I mean, there are a lot of beautiful things that go on inside the PGRNA, just like other formations. There are struggles, man. There are struggles, man. And I don't down anybody, I don't judge any formation for their struggles, but there are struggles. There are generational struggles that go on. There are some ego-based struggles that go on inside of it. But if we think we're gonna build a nation and we ain't gonna fight, then we being very gullible. The question is, when we start fighting, what I'm saying, who's gonna stick it out and see it through, and who's gonna go home?
Yes, sir. Which leads me to this. Let's talk positivity. Let's
Right.
don't always talk about the wrong. What can we do to improve and move forward the whole New African independence movement, the Black nation, all of this? What do you suggest we do in this new generation?
I think that I would love to see the new generation to come into it with less fear. Then less, and what I mean by less fear, I ain't talking about fear of white people. I'm talking about fear of us, fear of each other, fear of losing it, fear of transforming it, innovating it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, sometimes the issue is we've done it this way for 40 years and this is how we do it. And so young people are like, man, this don't work. I don't want to mail written letters. You know what I'm saying? I want to
Mhm.
use, you know what I'm saying? I want, and so don't fear taking ownership of your liberation struggle, right? And
Mm.
you can do that without dishonoring the generation before you.
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
not dishonoring them when you say, okay, that's cool, but y'all, we gonna go ahead and do this and build this momentum over here where we see we can build some momentum. And the elders, they'll catch on.
I
You know,
say.
when we show up to the conference with 50 people, they're gonna be, oh, did
Mm.
y'all do a letter writing campaign? No, it wasn't a letter writing campaign. But you ain't got to worry about it, elder, because guess what? You don't got to knock on the doors no more. We knocking on the doors,
Yes, sir.
right?
And I would like to say something for the elders, and I know they're going to be watching this, but I would like to have a special salute and all honor to the elders. I feel that they did their job. They made the ultimate sacrifice.
Great.
They went through the COINTELPRO. A lot of them died, went to prison, beat. So many things happened to them. And
Right.
just as a younger man in the movement, I just feel, and my passion is that it's our turn to step up and help them fulfill and manifest what they have started. And that's my only thing. That
Right.
is my only thing. And
Right.
and, and
And
that's
I
what
just
I'm adamant
believe
about.
as we do that, and as that's done, keep the liberation of the people as the foundational goal,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Like at the end of the day, does what we do appeal to the people that we're attempting to liberate,
Mm.
right? Like that outreach is so important. you know if you study any revolution or any transformation or any shift, right, there are movements that go and that are effective in winning the hearts and minds of the community at large. We have to learn how to serve our community. I look at the Black community as a car that needs to be serviced, right? A lot of times say, hey, we're going to lead Black people. Well, you can't drive a car with no motor in it, you know and so before we start leading the people, we have to service the people. Like with look at the original Black Panthers. We see the guns and everything, but the meat, the strength, the substance of the original Black Panther Party for self-defense, the substance for the new Republic of New Africa and other formations were the services they were providing for the community. So yes, that's great, we all got our guns and we can go downtown and we can march, but where's your training center inside the community? Where's that abandoned house that we done took over? That's the Black Power House where the children can come and get a meal and get a lesson there, where people can come and figure out, where to find a job or how to make a job. We have to train ourselves to be of service to our community. Liberation sounds a lot better with a sandwich.
Yes, sir, Baba. So I have a question.
Yes.
For all the young people coming in the movement, like I
Mhm.
myself, I'm 21 years old, and the
Right.
Minister of Information is 23 years old.
Young
Um,
brother.
yes, sir. What
Yes.
advice would you give to us as an elder? With us being, young in the movement, what would you leave us here with today?
When I was your age and I got in the movement, I thought we was gonna free Black people by the time I was 25. But it didn't happen. It didn't quite happen like that. Um, my advice to you would be, first, love yourself. Don't forget about you. Don't neglect you. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
Like,
sir.
yes, take care of your physical health, but also take care of your mental health. Take care of your spiritual health. Be the best you that you can be. Number two, most important organization you'll ever belong to is your family. They might not agree with everything that you agree with, but those universal laws, those universal principles, stick to those. When you go to the family cookout, don't be the angry black militant. Be the most loving uncle and brother at the cookout. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Because all of this is designed for you to love your people, and you have to work to maintain that love. But that begins with a love of self. So maintain that. All right. And then number 3, be a listener. Don't assume because you read some books that you got something to offer people every time you walk in the room. And don't assume that when you walk amongst your people who ain't read the books that you read, that they don't have something to teach you. So every effective teacher is a better student, right? So those will probably be the top 3. Love yourself. Remember, the most important organization you belong to is your family. And that includes, and everybody's family don't look the same. Even if it's your extended family, whatever that closest circle of people is to you, that's the most important organization you belong to. And then number 3, you know what I'm saying? What was my third one?
I know you said listen.
Listen, there it is. Listen, I wouldn't even listen to myself. Be a listener. All right. And that would be what that's what I would tell you. And carry those principles into every meeting that you go into, and you should be fine. And be patient.
Ashe,
Right?
ashe, ashe. I appreciate you, Baba.
No
Chairman.
problem. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. And we're coming to the end of this, but we most definitely will check up with you every every quarter or whatever. We're keeping this dialogue going all the time. But before you leave, we would like for you to tell us what you have going on right now, and tell us some events and what you need people to tap into.
Cool. All right. One of the things that we have going on that we're very excited about is our UACI. That's the Uhuru Academy Conscious Ingenuity UACI Summer STEM Camp. It's a virtual STEM camp where students come online and they learn coding, they learn cybersecurity, and they also learn African history, the African history in STEM. You know what I'm saying? In science, technology, engineering, and math. It's our 3rd year in a row doing it. And this year we are fully funded. In other words, it's free for the community to sign up, right? But we have limited spots. We only got 30 spots, and I think 17 of them already took up, right? So we won't, if you got somebody, a young person between the age of 7 years old and 17 years old, this would be a great camp for them to get involved in. It's going down from July 8th to July 19th. And again, you go to uhuruacademy.com, and there's no program out there like it. It's really good. It's a great program. They stay engaged, they have fun. We send them microbit computers to work with and to build, and students really get a kick out of it. So we got that. But coming this week, and if you're in the Columbia, South Carolina area, it is Juneteenth, South Carolina Juneteenth Freedom Fest time. I am vice president of the South Carolina Juneteenth Freedom Festival. And so we got a lot of things going on. I want to shout out to the House of Hathor, 6319 North Main Street, right here in Columbia. Every night this week, we got something going on. We talking Black mental health tomorrow night from 7 to 9. Tuesday night, we talking about financial issues from 7 to 9. Wednesday, we're going to be podcasting there, the First Majority Podcast. The topic is what's right with us, because ain't nothing wrong with us that what's right with us can't fix. And then on Thursday, we are screening the first ever narrative film about the life of Marcus Mosiah Garvey called Mosiah the Movie, with the director and producer Gerard Brown in the house. That's going to be at House of Hathor on Thursday night. Then on Friday, we having a night parade right down Main Street, downtown Columbia, South Carolina, from 6 to 9. Y'all want to come and check out the night parade. And then Saturday, we have the festival from 12 noon to 8 p.m. Live artists from all over the area, vendors. We're going to have a college fair out there, job fair out there, entrepreneur fair out there. It's going to be a lot of fun on Saturday. Sunday, I'm going to get some sleep. Then on On the 22nd, we'll be at the Juneteenth Jamboree. I'm speaking in Memphis, Tennessee on the 22nd. Shout out to Smooth Living. That's a RBG establishment right there. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to Mente, Smooth Living. We got the all-day festival in Memphis, Juneteenth festival in Memphis on the 22nd, and I'll be the keynote speaker and performing there too, because I still spit. We still a beast on that mic. Don't sleep.
Yes, sir. Maybe next time you could drop a flow for us. Next time?
Yeah, man, it's easy. Anytime.
All right. We would like to thank you for coming. It's an honor, sir. And
No, it's an honor to be here.
we're most definitely gonna stay tapped in. And I'll just like to end. I like to end by saying this: let's build to win and free the land. All power to the people.
By any means necessary.